Hey there everyone, this is Michael Dougal. I review nootropics, and in this video you're going to learn about CDP Choline, which is another alternative to taking choline as a supplement. Some of the other ones you may be familiar with would be alpha GPC, also choline bitartrate, and there's a few interesting differences between the different forms of choline. Choline isn't really seen as a supplement as much as it's seen as an actual nutrient, but of course the reason individuals may supplement with it is to ensure that their choline needs are being met. And this is because of the fact that we have so much research out there showing how important choline is when it comes to all things cognition, from memory, from focus, to ensuring that we're in a good mood. As for this study here, the relation of dietary choline to cognitive performance and white matter hyperintensity, where they analyzed about 1,400 people. They were aged between 36 to 83, and they concluded that more choline, well, it was better for the brain, but also not having enough choline was bad for the brain and often resulted in dementia. CDP choline's other name is citocoline, and what it is it's actually responsible for building acetylcholine within the brain, which is a really important neurotransmitter for learning, for memory, for thinking, planning, pretty much all things cognition. But what's interesting about CDP choline is that it's actually more bioavailable than other forms of choline. And of course, this is something as well which makes alpha GPC so popular, is that alpha GPC has been seen as being the most bioavailable. I've talked more about alpha GPC in this video over here, but there's a reason why individuals often would use CDP choline over alpha GPC, and that's because of some of the side effects that are associated to each of them, which we'll get to. From my experience in using CDP choline, I found pretty significant cognitive benefits. Some individuals have to wait a bit of time for them to notice the effects, but I pretty much felt them within the first couple of days of using them. And some of the signs that it was working was that I wasn't as mentally fatigued. I'm somebody that will typically need to take a break after a couple of hours of intense work, but I found like with CDP choline, I was able to have like longer stretches of work, but also have lesser of a need for me to take frequent breaks. And that was interesting in the sense of when we work, typically we have a good clear mind, but then as time progresses, our mind gets more cluttered, we feel a bit fatigued, we lose concentration. And so you'll notice that when you ingest a supplement like CDP choline, you're fatiguing at a far slower rate. Now, does it actually boost cognitive function? That I'm not so sure about. When I think about boosting cognitive function, I think like, okay, I'm using this supplement and it's making me smarter. And I wouldn't necessarily say I feel that way when I'm using CDP choline. More so, I feel like more mentally energized for a longer stretch of time. So I especially would want to use a supplement like CDP choline during those days when I'm going to have an excessive amount of work, or I'm working a longer workday than typically, or I'm doing something that's typically more fatiguing than usual, like I'm traveling, plus I'm switching from like Zoom calls to in-person meetings. Those are definitely a time in which you would want to use something like CDP choline. And it's not necessarily that it stimulates you like caffeine would, but more so you just feel more fresher throughout the day and don't feel as fatigued. I find that it can slightly boost focus and slightly boost attention, but not to the extent that you would experience from using like an amino acid like L-tyrosine, which I've talked about more in this video over here, because L-tyrosine is also naturally occurring, but you ingest it and you feel like a boost of concentration. With CDP choline, I think it's more subtle. I think if you're somebody that's sensitive to nootropics like myself, like I notice all kinds of things working. I'm fortunate that I can see a difference with CDP choline, but for a lot of individuals, they'll have to take it for a few weeks for them to better determine whether or not they're noticing anything. But I actually started using choline when I was a university student over a decade ago, and I could pretty much tell my grades were better when I was using choline, whether it was CDP choline or choline bitartrate. My memory was definitely better. Now, what I had found with using alpha GPC, you can say like CDP choline's competitor, was that with alpha GPC, I had better verbal fluency in the sense of if I was speaking, things were always at the tip of my tongue. I wouldn't have to like think to find words. I was able to construct sentences very well. And so I didn't find that same benefit, interestingly enough, with CDP choline. And from my experience, alpha GPC is far stronger than CDP choline. It's just that CDP choline may be more appropriate for individuals that experience side effects when they use alpha GPC, because with alpha GPC, a lot of people ingest it and they end up actually feeling worse. So how I would rank the three different popular forms of choline would be alpha GPC first, then CDP choline, and then it would be choline bitartrate. And then perhaps you may want to consider phosphatidylcholine. I don't have enough experience with using phosphatidylcholine, but that's another option in the event that these first three don't work well for you. Also, something great about alpha GPC is that there is some research showing it can increase growth hormone levels as well as increase strength, which of course is great in the gym. And if you want to take a more conservative approach, you can consider CDP choline. And if you want to take like a cost-effective approach, that's where you can consider choline bitartrate. And it's interesting, some supplement blends have actually started to combine the two. So we'll see a serving size of alpha GPC as well as CDP choline. With each of these supplements, unfortunately though, there are so many mixed reviews. Some people swear by taking them and some people have awful experiences, but I've actually learned that not many people stick with CDP choline long term. Perhaps they'll use it for a month, enjoy it, but they won't continue to use it, which tells you something about the supplement. Or some individuals would use CDP choline on days when they need it, and their off days, they pretty much would rely on their diet for meeting their choline needs. And it's pretty difficult to get all your choline choline through diet. One egg yolk has about 150 milligrams of choline. However, if you cook it at a high temperature, about 2/3 of the choline content is actually lost. Here's a positive experience on the Nootropics Depot website. Within a week of taking this product, they noticed they had an increase in memory, reaction time, and overall maintaining a better sense of well-being, and they'll definitely be reordering it. Another individual at the same time said a while back they took 500 milligrams a day and they felt that it was good for the first week, but on the second week they actually felt depressed. And unfortunately, after browsing a number of anecdotes, I'm surprised to say that most of the reviews of CDP choline are actually negative versus positive. But then again, people that have good experiences about supplements aren't going to go online and talk about them. It's more commonly going to be people that weren't too pleased with how they reacted to it. Fortunately, we have a few great studies done on CDP choline illustrating how effective it is not only in animals but also in humans. We can see in this study they actually used CDP choline on young men, and what they had found was after 28 days of using the supplement, they had better reaction time and better motor speed and attention. As per this visual over here, we can see they had a simple finger tap test, and the individuals that use citocoline performed significantly better. But also, women aged 40 to 60 years old after 28 days of 250 milligrams or 500 milligrams per day of citocoline, they as well had better cognition. So we have one study showing that it helped young men with remote control. We have another study showing that it helped women age 40 to 60 cognitively. But we also have a great study done over here where what happened was they took healthy individuals between age 50 and 85 and measured them over a long period, actually 12 weeks, so much better than 28 days. And the individuals that were using CDP choline, also known as citocoline, had better scores across different measures of cognition as well as memory. And another reason individuals may want to consider using CDP choline is because of the fact that alpha GPC, of course, had a recent study done on it showing just how dangerous it can potentially be. And that's because a number of alpha GPC users ended up being more likely to have a stroke. I talked more about that in this video here, alpha GPC side effects. So individuals see CDP choline like this is a safer form of ingesting their choline without the associated risks. If this does, however, still concern you, then you may want to consider consuming some garlic, having some fermented foods as well as probiotics. And that's because with alpha GPC consumption, it was associated with an increase of TMAO levels. That's trimethylamine oxide. However, with CDP choline, as per this study here, citocoline and memory function in healthy older adults, they mentioned that choline and citocoline has been suggested to be less prone to conversion to TMAO. With respect to the serving size, I think a good place to start is taking 100 milligrams per day. It doesn't matter when you take it, but I think you're best off taking it in the beginning of the day. Some individuals feel like a good acute reaction to it and that they ingest it, they notice it working for a few hours. I'm one of those individuals, thankfully, but most individuals, they have to take it for a series of days for them to notice the benefits. So that's why, again, you may want to consider a higher dose. And then if you respond okay to it, then you would want to consider taking a serving size from 250 milligrams to 500 milligrams. And I think it's best taken twice during the day. You can decide when that best fits your schedule. But at the same time, there's individuals that take 2, even 3 grams of choline every single day. I don't know why they do, but after browsing through a lot of anecdotes, it seems like with most individuals, less is actually better. And you'll also be happy to know that with CDP choline, it serves as a good foundational nootropic, so you can add it to whatever supplement stack that you're already using. Especially when it comes to things like the racetams or adaptogens, you'll find that they actually work better when you're consuming them alongside a choline supplement like CDP choline. And with respect to taking time off, I don't think it's that important. Sure, if you're very conservative and you want to take a safe approach, you can consider taking 2 months on followed by 1 month off. But I'd be pretty comfortable taking it 4 months straight, followed by a couple weeks off, and then repeating it in that fashion. I'd love to know your thoughts about CDP choline in the comment section below. Do subscribe, drop a like, and if you want to chat with me one-on-one, you can consider messaging me on Patreon, and be sure to visit our Discord server. We have a 24/7 chat room. We're having a whole lot of fun. I thank you for your support, and I look forward to seeing you next time.